Julia Barzyk here from Wise Investigator. Hi, everybody. So I have returned to North Carolina from the NORDP annual meeting, the National Organization of Research Development Professionals, and I had promised a follow-up to my earlier video this week on some takeaways from that meeting. So there's a lot of takeaways, and I've had a chance over the last day or so to process everything, think about what I learned, the connections that I made. And because I make these videos primarily for PIs, for faculty, I wanted to share some content that I believe would be most helpful to them. And it's actually going to be echoing a lot of things I have said previously, but with the added perspective of what I learned this week. So, at this meeting, there were, of course, many research development professionals, and there also were representatives from big funding agencies like NIH, NSF, DOD, and not only were these representatives there, but other people like myself who are experts in some of these agencies. They may have served as program officers or grant managers or in other roles, as well as many other experts who maybe haven't had a formal affiliation with one of these organizations, but the hotel was full of experts. So something that was communicated across all the disciplines, across all the agencies, was the importance of PIs reaching out to program officers. And we've talked about this. So I think one of the frustrating things for some folks in research development at the universities, at these institutions who are doing the work behind the scenes to coordinate teams, especially for like large team-based type awards, complex proposals that have to have a lot of coordination and just a lot of work to be put together. Well, these research development professionals are working on those kinds of things. They're also helping to the extent that they can individual PIs, and they can do so much to support the proposal development process. But one thing they cannot do for the PIs is reach out to the program officers and, more importantly, have the conversations with the program officers. That's something that PIs, you all, will need to do on your own. You're on your own to do that, but we can talk about some ways you can get some support so that you can feel better about doing that. Now, as I was saying, the research development professionals, oftentimes there are just a few people working in one of these offices, and therefore they often have most of their time taken up with the complex proposals that they're putting together. And because, like I'm saying, it is the PIs who need to do this outreach themselves, that's why I saw the need for my business to support these individual PIs. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm not working on large complex awards. I'm working one-on-one with PIs. Now, why is it so hard? Everybody across the board expressed that it is difficult to, encourage or, this kind of outreach, that everyone is in agreement. Okay, everyone's in agreement that it's difficult to kind of get the PIs to do this fully, and they also are in agreement that it's very important. So let's talk about why this is. So I am going to put out a couple reasons that I've heard and that we all know, we can all relate to, I think, not just for why we might not reach out to program officers, but why we might not do certain things that, we say we want to be doing. Well, one of them, of course, one reason, right, this might not be happening is bandwidth. So, of course, this time of year, some of you all are coming out of a very, very crazy few weeks at the end of a semester. During that time, you're totally slammed. It's fine that you're not reaching out to program officers during that time. I also talked to a client recently who had some kids who were in the hospital. And if that's the case, then yeah, certainly that is also a time when you wouldn't be doing this outreach. But I really would like people to think a bit about, if they may be kind of using this to avoid doing the outreach. Even to the extent that they're thinking about this bandwidth issue, not even just in terms of their own bandwidth, but even thinking about the program officer and coming up with reasons why they think that person might be too busy. Maybe they know that there is, at this point in time, excuse me. So maybe they know that there's a call and a bunch of proposals have just come into this person's program, and they're thinking, this program officer is probably very busy right now, I won't reach out to them. Or they're thinking, I know this program officer was just at a big annual meeting, so they're probably really behind with their email and really busy right now, so I won't reach out to them. Maybe I'll do it in a few weeks or in a few months. And so I want everybody to start thinking about, the deeper reason, right, why this may not be happening at this outreach, and we'll get to that. So similarly, we also hear that the PIs are not ready to do the outreach. Now, they often feel that they need to have certain documents prepared, certain things, even just straight in their head, or certain notes or certain research done. And now there are cases where a program officer will request, or within a program or a certain agency, it may be known for these types of opportunities, you do want to have some specific item prepared. But in the vast majority of cases, you do not need to have anything prepared. You are prepared because you have already gotten your entire education. You've already done a lot of independent research. You have a lot of ideas in your head. You have ideas you're working on, right now, and you are absolutely prepared. So think also, am I using the idea that I don't have what I need prepared to put off or to avoid reaching out and contacting these people? Another reason we hear is that there's maybe not an opportunity right now. So the issue here is that people aren't thinking long term. So we really, at this stage, want to be thinking not just 6 or 12 months out, but 2 years out. And just because there's not an opportunity that you're aware of, there may be, but maybe you're not aware of it, with a certain organization, within a certain part of an organization, even because maybe you want to reach out to some government people, and as far as you know, they don't even have funding for extramural investments or, research done at the universities. It's still worthwhile to reach out, because you never know where there may be money that you're not aware of. You never know when money might be coming in 6 months, in 12 months, again, in 24 months. So thinking short term is another reason that I hear being used as a rationalization for why people, PIs, are not doing this outreach. So now it's important to talk about what you can do to overcome this, because really what we're talking about is the anxiety that many PIs have about initiating these conversations, having these conversations. And I think that the reason why PIs have this anxiety, a big part of it, there can be many reasons, but a big part of it is because they don't know and understand the full funding process, how this conversation is going to fit into the bigger picture. What exactly is their role in all of this? And this is a plug for my business and the work that I do. But what I do is work with clients to pull back the curtain so that they can understand how these types of conversations fit into a much broader picture of all of the moving parts within the funding process. And once they gain this knowledge, a lot of this anxiety can lift, and then we can move forward. Now, I'm not licensed to do therapy. I don't do therapy or that deeper work with clients, but I really would encourage you to think, what is the deeper reason why I'm not doing this outreach? Now, this type of outreach that I'm talking about, in this networking, most importantly, it's networking, is really what has to happen for any professional outside of academia, within academia, when you are moving into a mid-career stage. Now, people, when they start their faculty positions, they're still considered early career for a while. Maybe it could be 5 years, for certain award types, say. But you are quite possibly, in your 30s. I mean, you could be in your 40s. Maybe you've gotten to this point in your 20s. So you're really a mid-career professional. Again, you could still apply for the early career awards, but in name, right? But in reality, you're a mid-career person. You're becoming a middle-aged person, even. Welcome. So whether you are in academia or elsewhere, you move into this part of your career and this part of life really where it's not about filling out forms like a job application for your entry-level job. The first job you ever had, you had to fill in some information in a form, and then maybe, if that information looked good, you got a phone call and you got hired. Or you applied to college, or you applied to grad school even, and you are filling in your, the scores that you got on certain tests, and maybe a recommendation from a teacher, grades, of course. All of these things are important in getting you to the next level in your training, in your true early career. But once you are in this mid-career stage and beyond, you are not filling out applications the same way. You're not just filling in a form and hoping that your scores are better than the next person. You are building relationships, and you're doing this really like significant type networking where you're sharing your ideas, your experiences, learning from other colleagues, and having this back and forth while you think about the big ideas in your field, and you talk about the big ideas in your field, and you're at this level where relationships are important. So this to wrap up here, this and to support my point, I think that everybody has to do this at this stage, whether you are in a faculty position or not. When I was at this conference this past week, I was speaking to everybody that I was able to speak with. I have a business. I'm making connections. I want to make more connections. So I wasn't thinking, if I started talking to somebody and heard what institution they're at, I would never be thinking, oh, this is a school that I don't think they have a lot of money, so maybe it's not worth my time to talk to this person. That is a very, very poor approach to getting ahead in your career. So I don't think it's right to think about people or organizations that way. But even from a more transactional standpoint, it doesn't make sense. It's not the most productive and effective way to go about networking. You never know where there's money. You never know when something will grow into an opportunity that you were never expecting. You never know when the person who was at the organization that had no money, when they get a new job and they move to an organization that has lots of money. There's so many different things that can happen, that what you want to do is talk to people who have shared interests, period. And the money will come. I think, that doesn't mean that you can't be a little bit strategic in terms of your timing. That's not necessarily an out, right, in terms of avoiding the outreach, because of a timing issue, or blaming, the avoidance of outreach on bad timing. And I can illustrate this in my own case as well. I had so many great conversations. I made a lot of notes, collected some business cards. And when I got back to my desk, I drafted emails to all those people that I wanted to follow up with. But I know it's the end of the week. The conference was in the first part of the week. So I set those emails to send Monday morning. So that is a great way to use a little bit of strategy to, maybe make it a little bit more likely that somebody not only reads your message, but is in a position where they can respond right then, rather than having it get buried. But what I would not want to have done was to have come back to my home office and thought, everybody's just getting back to their office, getting back to their families, they're tired, I'm not going to worry about writing these emails or worry about this now. I'll wait a few weeks and I will reach out then. Now, we all know, the likelihood of that actually happening, because life happens. And if you're like me and your handwriting isn't that great, you also may find that your notes are harder to reconstruct at that point in the future. So bringing this back around to reaching out to program officers and this event. Across all agencies, all experts, the folks were saying, do this outreach. So I know, and we also acknowledged, it was acknowledged that it was difficult for PIs to do this. So, that's why I've gone into business, really, is because I want to provide the support, and my clients are getting good results. So thanks for listening. This was a long one, and reach out with whatever questions or you have about the funding process. Thanks.